So today I actually am going to start working on this project that I had plans to do so for a couple months now. I was gonna do this in October for a very special stream, and if you're seeing this, you have already seen probably what it's been for. And I had plans to make a vest. I'm gonna make it from scratch. I don't have any more painter's tape. That's what I would have used to like make the pattern and stuff, but since I don't have like a vest pattern, I'm gonna have to improvise, and I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but that's what this video is about. Me figuring out how exactly I'm gonna make a Pokemon trainer vest so I can look like this girl. So since I don't have any of my painter's tape, I did bring some materials that could possibly potentially help me. First of all, this is gonna be the shirt that I'm wearing underneath the vest, because she just wears like a white tank top, and I have to kind of use like something else to copy the pattern of a vest. What I was thinking of was, depending on how wide the straps of the vest would be, the shoulders, I could just fold this part in and then cut this would be cut in half, and then I could just like shorten the edges or hem them however wide open I want it to be. That sounds pretty good, right? So now I'm gonna go and kind of draft a pattern using some chalk. So what I'm gonna do is take this fabric, and it's already kind of folded, but what I want it to be is double-sided. I want it to be double. So I have a fold right along here, and it ends here. And I want it to be as wrinkle-free as possible so I don't mess up. So now I'm gonna take my shirt and fold this in half toward the front. So the front is the side that's folded in. If I knew what I was doing, this would be a tutorial, but since it's not, since I don't know what I'm doing, this is just how things are gonna be. I don't want it to be super long, you know? And actually right now I'm gonna go measure how long I want it to be. Okay, so from the shoulder seam down, I kind of want it to be like a cropped sort of thing, right? We'll say like 17 actually, and then 18 for seam allowance. That should be good, right? So I'm cutting out, I guess, the neckline here. I'm not cutting out just yet though. I'm marking the neckline. So I don't want the shoulders to be too wide because this is just a vest. So I'm gonna go actually measure the shoulders. Okay, so I'm back at the mannequin, and I'm measuring the shoulders from, let's say, if the collar was right here, 3.5 for seam allowance. So I'm marking that. Now what I'm gonna do is fold in these sleeves, and I'm gonna make like a curve. And now I'm kind of just freestyling what the curve would actually be like. And then from here, I'm just gonna go straight down. So that's my back pattern. Now I'm gonna cut it out and see how that goes. Moment of truth. How wide is this actually? How bad does this look? Okay, does not look that bad at all. Let's go. That looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna use this to pattern the rest of it, which means I only have the front left to make a pattern of. So I'm gonna cut this part again, since I really like this piece. I was thinking I'd have to like edit it a little bit or alter it. And then I'm actually gonna make another one exactly like this to be the back. I want it to be double layered. So I'm gonna sew 2 of these together and then together again with the front pieces. That makes no sense. Okay, so the only part that I did not trace was the neckline, right? So it's a matter of how deep I want the neckline to be. Okay, so I just looked and it doesn't really have a neckline at all. So what I'm gonna do is kind of just pretty much bring this down as far as I want and have it be that. No, that seems wrong. What if I want to bring it down even more? What if I want it to be like this? That seems kind of funky. Since I'm about to cut it and I want it to stay folded in so I can make my next pattern very easy for me, I'm just gonna pin all the edges together. I know that I need pretty much 4 pieces for this front panel because I need a front and back for both the left and the right side. Once I cut this piece out, I'm gonna have a way better idea of what this vest is gonna look like, because then I'll be able to like pin them and it'll be great. Before I cut the neckline, my idea was to go all the way down here, but in case that does not look good, I'm gonna cut this first line instead. And then I can always cut more off, but I can't put stuff back. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is pin this to the back side. Now I'm gonna take this to the mannequin. My suspicions were correct. Okay, so obviously I don't want it to be this far in. Okay, it's really funny looking, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take some of this off. Okay, so now I have all these marks on it, as you can see. This is all like all the excess that I don't want on it. So I'm gonna take this piece and I'm gonna cut it, and then once it's all cut, I'm gonna make 2 more pieces of this in the same exact shape. And then for the back panel, I'm gonna cut this part off because I still want these sides to be even. These have to be perfectly even. Perfectly. They have to be. So since I have like so much sketching going on, I'm gonna take the blue and have this be the actual line of where I actually want to cut. Okay, so I actually just finished cutting out all of the pieces. So this is gonna be the actual vest part. And remember, if I don't like it, I can just cut it even more because I'm a fashion designer at this time. So everything that I make, it's gonna be made exactly how good I can make it. And I'm gonna keep the back panel the same for now because I'm gonna have to finish this tomorrow and I have to make this perfectly the same as the other one, so I'm gonna have to cut them together. But it is 7:55 now and I have to go play some community night Among Us. So I'll see you in the morning. Okay, so I'm back and I have all of the pieces here that I need to figure out. And it's been a whole, I'd say it's been like 16 hours. So for the front piece, I'm gonna be using these 2. There's 2 layers for each side because I want it to be kind of on the thicker side of things. And then I have 2 of the back side. But the thing with the back side is that I need to cut a little bit more because I included the collar when I compared it to the shirt. So I'm gonna see if I can cut that off. The most important part is that no matter how much I cut this, it has to be the same length as this shoulder piece because they go together. So I'm gonna use one of these to kind of mark out how wide this can go. I want these to be even, and it looks like I can cut not that much. Continue the slope here, and then cut that off there. So the other thing that I wanted to do was cut a little bit more of this bottom part off because I measured it with my hand and I figured that this is as much as I want to keep. So I'm going to cut this off, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a smidge for the seam allowance. And you know what? I didn't even use a ruler or anything. I just kind of winged it. But maybe I should probably use my ruler. So where I continued off yesterday is I didn't get to cut off these markings. So I'm going to take the 2 pieces so that they're together and fold them in half. I needed to keep at least a little bit of this. So I'm gonna fix this marking. I'm gonna take this corner and keep this length because I need this length to match that. This length needs to match that too. So I'm not gonna mess with that. And as you can see, I'm really just freestyling it because I don't know what the outcome is gonna be like. And then now I'm just gonna use one of these pizza cutter things that I really so love very much and cut out the mark. Yeah, I wish I really knew how that happens. It just doesn't really make any sense. Okay, so here I go, cutting all 4 layers. And then I was also gonna cut this part off. So if I had the pizza cutter thingy, I would just do one big slice right now. But since I don't, I gotta do it like this. Now comes the fun part, which is the actual sewing. So what I'm gonna do now is grab my pins. Where are they? Grab my pins and pin all the edges that are going to be sewed. So for example, this is gonna be 2 layers, right? So what I wanna do here is pin all the way around this, all the way for both of them. All three of them, actually. They're all gonna need to be pinned and sewn all the way around, except for right here. I'm pretty sure it doesn't have to be sewn all the way around through here because I'm gonna be having to fold it inside out, and this is gonna be sewn anyway to the back pieces. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Just a reminder, I don't know what I'm doing, so this is my thought process, and if this works, it works. And if I mess up, then you'll get to hear about it. Okay, so I know I already said, now here comes the fun part, sewing. But I was wrong because I forgot that I have to pin everything. And I might have overdone the pins just a little bit, but I want to show you what I pinned exactly. All of the pieces, there's 3 pieces, 2 front panels, and then 1 back panel. They're all double layered, so they need to be sewn together so that the fabric is thicker and the material is stronger. I pinned everywhere except for the shoulder pieces because those are the sides that are going to be sewn together, because I'm going to need to turn these inside out, and if it's sewed all the way around, how am I going to turn it inside out? One side needs to be open, so I picked this side because it's going to be sewn in anyways when I connect the front and the back. And I did the same with the back too. So on the front panels, it's the shoulder pieces. Same thing here. I really have to talk to myself like that because, I don't know, it hypes me up. It makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. Because do I know what I'm doing? I think I kind of do. So with my experiment, I'm gonna put my sewing mat down and pull up my sewing machine. I'm a beginner, so if I was watching a tutorial about anything, I'd want them to tell me what the stitch length they're using is. So I'm using 2.5, and it's just a straight stitch. And with the width, I don't really mess with that unless I'm gonna do some like zigzag stitching, but right now it's at a 2.5 as well. I don't know if that's good though. And now I be sewing. I'm gonna start right here at one of the edges of the shoulder seam. I know I keep seeing it, the shoulder piece, but there's no shoulder piece. It's just a shoulder seam. So anytime I've ever said shoulder piece, just disregard it and know that I meant shoulder seam, which is this line right here that connects the 2 back and front pieces together. Okay, so I already messed up. Oh no. Fabric is really flimsy. So I already messed up because the fabric wasn't strong enough, and maybe I messed up. There's a thing called a seam ripper, and maybe I just thought that I knew what I was doing and I didn't even think about making sure that I got all the actual steps done before we actually proceed. And I just tried to backstitch and I messed up. I'm gonna try again. I'm putting the presser foot down, but I don't want it to be too close to the edge, you know, because I just made the mistake of doing that. Okay, now that I finished one piece, I'm just gonna cut this off. And you can see that I sewed all along every single edge except this one. So check this out. If you don't know anything about sewing, check this out. You see how it looks like this and you can see the seams and it doesn't look good? Well, I'm gonna put my fingers into this pocket and kind of turn it all inside out. So I'm not really sure what exactly this tool is for, but I always use this to just push it in and use the end of it to get the corners pushed out. And then the best thing to do after this would be ironing it so that the seams are flattened. So now it looks like this. This is before it's even actually ironed down. So I'm gonna sew all the pieces and then iron them down and then sew them all together. So I said that I was gonna leave a space open on the shoulder seam, but I actually only did that once. One side I did close because I still had to close the collar seam because I didn't want to have to stop sewing on one side and then do a whole seam around here. I just continued the seam. As long as there was one space open, I figured that would be fine. So what I'm gonna do now before I turn everything inside out, this is something that I should have done on the other thing before I turned it inside out, but along the curves, I wanna make like little snippets because it makes the seams a lot flatter and easier to press when you cut like little triangles out of them. But because of seam allowance and all that, there's gonna be a little bit of some thick parts that aren't gonna wanna bend fully. So I'm gonna cut as many triangles until I feel it's sufficient. And I don't really know what the rule of thumb is for this. Once I do this, I'm gonna do the same thing to the curves on the other piece, and maybe I'll turn the other one, the first one that I did, inside out again so I can actually like do that. But once that's all done, it's time for me to iron them, press the seams so that they're flat, and then I'm gonna actually sew the vest together. And I've gotten pretty far along in this now, so I should probably pin them before sewing them just to see if there's anything that's too loose or too tight. Okay, just to show you guys just how many triangles I actually cut out. It's a lot. It's actually a lot. So this is gonna make it super easy to iron out and make sure that all the curves are nice and straight. I mean, they're not supposed to be straight, they're supposed to be curved. But we don't want them to be like all bunched up looking, you know? I mean, that might be a look, but we don't want that this time. I wish I knew the rule of thumb for this. Like, nobody ever taught me the rule of thumb. What I always want to do is just cut the whole seam allowance off, but my mom told me not to do that because what if you need to restitch the seams? You don't want to cut exactly where the seams are. You'll need some seam allowance, you know? And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Okay, now this is finally coming together. It just needs to be ironed because you see how fluffy these edges are? They just need to be flattened out and it'll look good. I hope. I really, really want that. And do you see how using that really makes the corner point out like that? That's great. That's what we want. Whoa, look at this. Oh my God. Oh my God. And yeah, the corners are or the curves are kind of puckering up a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so I got all these pieces inside outed, and before I actually iron them down though, because I have to go get the ironing board, I'm gonna pin these together just to get an idea of what the actual piece, finished product is gonna look like, which means I just gotta pin the shoulder seams together and the side seams. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, you know how I didn't sew like one shoulder side together? Maybe I shouldn't have sewn these sides together. I mean, it doesn't really matter now because this is a vest. It's not a fitted shirt. But if I were to do this later, and you know what? Like, that's what this is about. This is about me learning how to do things. Next time, I won't sew the two pieces of a side seam in because I'm losing fabric that way, or it's gonna be even tighter, I believe. Because you have to really like think about like how this works, like the logistics of it. You have to really think about like, if I don't sew this inside out, how would I even attach sleeves? It's a lot of thinking, and a lot of people who know how to do this, they just do a really good job about knowing how this works logically in their head. It gets really confusing, really, really confusing. And now that I think about it, one side of my shoulders might be too long because I already sewed them in. You know what? Oops. That's a hee mistake. Well, now I know. Now I know to actually like not sew in one side. One side is gonna be shorter if I do that. But we live and we learn. And I will live and die by my mistakes. Yes, it's a vest. Okay, now I'm gonna put it on here, on her chartreuse, and see how this goes. Oh my goodness, guys. Wow, I made it. Not yet, but that's pretty much how it's gonna look. It's a cute little vest. And I had no idea that it was gonna be this great. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing, but I'm gonna take off all of these pins. These are gonna be just singular little pieces again. Sometimes I get really lazy and I don't wanna put them in the little tomato right away, the pins, and I end up just like putting them in a stack in a little pile. That's really not good, and I'm waiting for the day to come where I accidentally step on one, because I found some that I never noticed fell, but I've never been stabbed and I don't want to jinx it. So I'm trying to be extra careful to make sure that I stab them into here. This piece kind of is already looking really good, but I'm gonna make it look better. Basically though, I kind of just iron it like it's a regular item of clothing that needs to be ironed. And I don't know how long it'll take to burn this. I don't want to burn it because I don't know what would happen. I don't know if it looks bad. I always have been told, like, be careful not to actually burn your fabrics. But I'm pretty sure this is like, I don't know, I think it's cotton. I don't know too much about fabrics, but now that I've got it all ironed out, nice and flattened, it's time to do the pinning part again, and then sewing the last 3 seams. All right. So the last time I sewed all the way around, right? But this time I'm only sewing here, these 2 edges, and these 2 edges, the side seams and the shoulder seams. And then it's gonna be the actual vest that I've been working on. Isn't that crazy? That's just crazy. I didn't think I could do this. Okay, but let me not get ahead of myself and actually just hurry up. Isn't it kind of cool that you can just take a shirt and turn it into a pattern for a vest? Okay, I'm gonna flatten these edges now, this time. Do you see this? This is a seam that also needs to be pressed the same exact way as I did the other one, but here, there's like 4 seams in here. So I have to like split them and then press this down. Why? So that it's even on both sides, I'm assuming. It kind of makes sense to me. And then I flip it over and iron the back down. And it's not perfectly like lined up because one side ended up being a little bit longer, but that's okay. It's not a big deal after all, at least it's functional. Okay, guess what is done? This. Finally done. And I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this now and show you guys on the mannequin. Whoa. And voila. I knew it. I did it. It's real now. Can you believe this? Oh my goodness. It's real. It's possible to just make a vest out of some normal black fabric and a t-shirt. The next thing I guess I have to do is, oopsie, she got shorter. The next thing I have to do is actually try it on myself and then finish the rest of my costume for Hilda and then wear it tonight. So I'm gonna try this on and then grab all the rest of the gear and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. Hilda decided to have her hair down, but for the most part, I'd say you can kind of tell what I'm going for, right? Especially with the hat. Like, it makes sense, right? This hat, I put tape on it and I don't know, I don't have a pink bag, so I just use this black one. And the vest though, like first of all, it fits me pretty freaking well and I'm honestly so proud of how it came out. It's honestly pretty freaking good. It's functional, it works, you can tell who I am, right? Like you can tell who I am, huh? Oh, one more thing. I got my Pikachu, I got my Lucio. I'm a Pokemon trainer. I'm nervous.